she would be raised like the boy towards a free adult future. And then she talks about how menstruation horrifies her because it signifies a brutal descent into femininity. I don't know if that's true. I was never horrified by menstruation. I just don't know. You know, menstruation is one of those things where people talk about it a lot and how it defines us and how it affects us and the moon, and so much is written about it. It doesn't mean anything to me. Honestly, I don't even notice when I'm in the period. I have sex the same. My life never changes. I guess I've had a few bad menstruations where I've had cramps during the day, but I'm so used to suffering in other ways that cramps don't mean shit to me. It's like physical suffering is nothing. If you've really suffered, like inside your head, physical suffering is nice. At least you can get out of yourself for a minute. I don't know, I'm open to it. I might change. For a lot of people it's really important. But to me it didn't signify anything, and it still doesn't. I like it. I like it. I like to see that there's stuff happening. I think it's amazing. Thanks to coeducation, the august mystery of man would have no occasion to arise. It would be killed by everyday familiarity and open competition. Objections to this system always imply respect for sexual taboos. It's true. When you don't talk about these things, when you don't want these things to occur, it's always because of some taboo, some social, religious, sexual taboo. But it is useless to inhibit curiosity and pleasure in children. This only results in creating repression, obsessions, and neurosis, exalted sentimentality, homosexual fervor, and the platonic passions of adolescent girls. So I think here she is talking about repressed sexuality in children, which is something that I feel very strongly about, but that I don't want to go into here. This oppression is far more harmful than a few childish games and actual experience, and I agree. What would really be profitable for the girl is that not seeking in the male a demigod, but only a friend, a partner, she is not diverted from assuming her own existence. So she is equally ambitious because she's not looking for a savior. Eroticism and love would be a free surpassing and not a resignation. Very important. The most intelligent, tolerant education could not free her from having her own experiences at her own expense. So even if she had all these equal circumstances, which they are not privileges, they're just equal circumstances, even then she would still have obstacles because she's still a human being, she's still young, she still has to learn. So it's not like we are offering her anything out of the ordinary. We're just talking about the same treatment. And I just want to say, I think sometimes we should be a lot kinder to men and little boys. So when I say same treatment, I mean the treatment that I think should be also given to boys. I don't mean be as cruel as you are to boys, because to boys, people are so hard at them because they want them to be this alpha male and they expect all this physical stuff from them. I don't think that should be done either. I think both sexes should be receiving kind, pleasant, fair education. I am also against these extreme forms of masculinity. Woman is the victim of no mysterious fate. The singularities that make her difference can be overcome as soon as they are grasped from new perspectives. That's what we need, new perspectives. In her erotic experience, the woman feels and often detests male domination. It must not be concluded that her ovaries condemn her to living on her knees eternally, literally and figuratively. Okay, sexually, and this is a good point. She says that many modern women, they feel humiliated to lie down under the man and let him penetrate them because they associate this with being slaves. But that is only because of this whole situation. Because if the woman felt, and I don't feel humiliated by this, so I don't think it applies to me, although if I start thinking deeply enough, maybe there is an element of humiliation. And what she's saying is that the only reason why we feel humiliated during the sex act is because of our situation, because we feel inferior, so everything that we do makes us feel inferior, whereas if we felt important, then we would actually feel very proud of being superbly inert, so superbly still, while the man is doing all the work, actively exerting himself, penetrating us. Fair point. She may be right. I think maybe she's going a bit far, but hey, man is like woman, a flesh, thus a passivity. So there really isn't much difference. He is usually prey to his desire. Each of them lives the strange ambiguity of existence. Now we're getting on to how men are also conflicted with themselves. The fact of being a human being is infinitely more important than all the singularities that distinguish human beings. And that's true. As human beings, we are so unique and we share so much, and that is so much more important. Can we focus on that? People will say that all these considerations are merely utopian. Because to remake woman, society would have to have already made her really an equal, and she is really not. So a lot of people think that a woman cannot be reshaped because she is actually not biologically able to be equal. But, and I agree, I think she is. And what Simone is saying here is that without a doubt, if this hierarchy is maintained in this inferior position for such a long time, it remains inferior. But the moment there is freedom, that can break the circle. So if you let blacks vote, suddenly they become worthy of voting. Suddenly maybe they find out more stuff about politics. If we give women responsibilities, then she knows how to assume them. For instance, a really basic example, if you get somebody who's really spoiled and suddenly you take away all of her money, which has happened to me, suddenly she can make a living for herself. And it's quite useful. Men, in their own interest, have been led to partially emancipate women. Women need only pursue their rise, and the success they obtain encourages them. It seems most certain that they will sooner or later attain perfect economic and social equality, which will bring about an inner metamorphosis. So men are actually helping us in our liberation, as they should, because it's also good for them. And this is happening more and more. In any case, some will object that if such a world is possible, it is not desirable. And here is where we get into fear of change. When woman is the same as her male, life will lose its spice, some people say. This argument is not new either. I love how she's saying all these amazing things that are blowing my mind, and then she says this argument is not new. And nobody has heard this argument nowadays. It's like it wasn't new in the 40s and it feels so new now. What are we, more stupid now? I just don't get it. It is true that by doing away with slave markets, we destroyed those great plantations lined with azaleas and chameleons. So she's being funny, putting examples of other liberations that maybe we shouldn't have acquitted to. I do feel kind of nostalgic about femininity already, because if we do become more equal, then something will change, right? I don't know. I don't even know what will change or how. There is certainly a feminine charm that risks turning to dust. So it is true that by removing slave markets, we destroyed those great plantations lined with azaleas and camellias. We dismantled the whole delicate southern civilization. Old lace was put away in the attics of time, along with the pure timbers of the Sistine castrati. So when they used to castrate their slaves, the eunuchs. And there is a certain feminine charm, likewise, that risks turning into dust as well. I grant that only a barbarian would not appreciate rare flowers, the lace, the plantations of the slaves, the crystal clear voice of eunuch slaves, or feminine charm. There is a certain feminine charm that risks turning to dust. Just like there were positive aspects in slavery, and the voice of the castrated slaves was really beautiful. So she's making a parallel between all these horrific oppressed groups and women, because there is beauty in a lot of injustice and cruelty. When shown in her splendor, the charming woman is an exalting object. She is the greatest wonder. Beneath her painted hair, the rustling of leaves becomes a thought, and words escape from her breasts. Men reach out their eager hands to the marvel, but as soon as they grasp it, it vanishes. The wife and the mistress speak like everyone else, with their mouths. This is a really interesting point, because, you know what? I'm gonna do this last part outside.